You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything. Some people open up their eyes to see the world they know outside. I can close my eyes and see all that and way beyond. When these trials of life come heavy and these obstacles get hard, feeling like I need some answers, I just go and talk to God. I just go and talk to God when I'm looking for guidance. Need more than sight, need vision, need direction when I'm blinded. Then I start that conversation with that voice I hear inside me, and that conversation starts with a voice inside that sounds just like me. When I talk to God, you can see God in anything, your reflection. I can find God in anything. When I talk to God, you can see God in anything. When I talk to God, I find God in anything. When I talk to God, my daddy said don't ever assume, ask questions. It's ironic it was that advice that helped the song happen. It was also that advice that led me to my life's blessings. That same advice helped me make it through life's lessons. It was that advice that separates grown-ups away from children. That advice can be the difference from knowing or just believing. It was that advice that brought the gavel down on my decisions of breaking the mental chains of these man-created religions. Cause faith and belief, nonsense, the biggest scam ever. I hate to say it, I swear it's one hell of a mental illness. Why we do it with these religions? The fact that COVID's killing while all of these guys is missing. Peekaboos, guys playing games with you. I'ma just assume he ain't got no COVID miracles. Maybe he ran out after making the donkey talk. Or some stories about a guy walking on water tides. Simply a distraction to keep you away from you, and to look outside for a God when the God is inside of you. When you close your eyes at night to pray to that voice you talking to. When you ready to face the truth, you realize that voice is you. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in.
Peace. What up, family? Yo, what is up? How is everybody doing? Hopefully y'all had an awesome day. My day was all right. And we are about to embark on another week. So let me say the topic today is going to be dealing with whether or not Christianity makes sense. But we're gonna have to define all that, right? So I tried to take notes and gonna read some of this stuff off to y'all. But let me just say hey to everyone that is coming in. Give you an update on things that are happening. We should have an interview on Thursday with Mr. Goodwin, the writer of the book Let There Be Gaslight. And we're also expecting another guest next week, Monday, the captain from Life After Religion channel. On tonight, I'm going to do the best that I can to try to read some of my notes and things and help us with this. Does it make sense? And I want to share with you it was on Facebook, so it's public. And I want to share with you with one she's my elder. She's an elder woman. But I want to be extra respectful if that's a thing. And on the post, she actually posted on chapter 2 because y'all know I put the invites to the show is already up. So the invite for tomorrow is already up on Facebook. And based on this is her answer to the question, does Christianity make sense, right? Her answer was yes, to someone with common sense. What is that? What do you mean common sense and Christianity makes sense to somebody with common sense? Maybe, because if we're talking about cultural things, as we might get into, I got some notes on that, then maybe that does make sense to those who already believe certain things. That's called confirmation bias, when your information that you take in only supports your position, and that's the only information you agree with, information that already supports what you're saying. That's not to say, Christians, you won't have some support for what you're saying. But in the grand scheme of things, when you're evaluating this evidence, we still have to arrive at whether or not this makes sense, whether or not it is simply a belief. It's okay if it's just your belief. I have belief. I have belief on a thing or two, maybe whatever they are, that I can't prove. But I'm honest in telling you that up front. The reason we have these conversations or have to go through all this is because believers claim that this stuff is real. It's not just their belief, that these things have taken place in our reality, in the natural world. So that's where we are. And I was thinking this for a long time, but we're talking about the supernatural, right? We're talking about things outside of the natural. It is super, meaning it's beyond, it's extra, it is above the natural realm. So if our process that we use, the scientific method, in order to investigate the natural world, if that's all it can investigate, then we got to start asking that question too. I don't think that we can evaluate supernatural claims based on the scientific method. And I'm not saying I believe one way or another. I'm just saying take that for what it is. Let me see some of the comments. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. What's up, Joanne? Peace, fam. How y'all doing? Like the video. Thanks, Neo, for always reminding us that. Yes, y'all, please go ahead if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, but definitely YouTube. Y'all hit that like button. Please do that. Sometimes it does, and sometimes not for me. What's good, family? What's good, Dewana? I'm not opposed to having some guests tonight. So if you all or anybody in the chat, if y'all want the link, y'all hit your boy up, because some of y'all that I wouldn't mind coming on, y'all got the number, y'all got the personal number. It'd be easier for me to just probably text it to y'all that way. All right. Now getting into what I was talking about, whether or not this stuff makes sense. So I tried to take notes. Y'all know I'm working during the day, and in order for me to come in here and remember some of the things I'm thinking about, I'm trying to do a better job of the notes. By the way, for those of y'all who are supporting, I appreciate that. Your boy is over here working hard, and thanks for what you're doing. So when we say that something needs to make sense, or as humans, we're trying to make something make sense. When we say that it needs to make sense, we're typically expressing the idea that a thing in question should be logical. Okay. If we're saying it make sense, you're saying it should be logical, you're saying it should be rational, and or it should be coherent. In other words, it should be understandable and reasonable based on the available information or context. I mean, hopefully we can agree thus far. If believers are seeing this, is that what you mean when you say these things make sense? That these claims, and I'm gonna deal with some of the most simple ones, and most well-known ones: talking snake, man walking on water, man rising from the dead, and a slew of other supposedly supernatural things that have taken place. Do these things make logical, rational, and are they coherent? Well, I think not. I think not. And I see this from the Bible. When I say coherent, I'm talking about the inconsistencies. Well, I'll get into that. I took some notes. This ideal of making sense can apply to a wide range of things now, such as a statement or argument or decision or action, a plan or a strategy, or even something as simple as a joke or a story. Jokes are probably only funny when you get it. Most time you don't get it. Somebody has to fill something in for you, if you're following what I'm saying there. And when it works all together, it still may not be funny, but at least you can see the logical progression of how they got to the punchline. That's what makes the joke work, right? All right. In each case, the expectation is that the thing in question should be internally consistent, clear, and able to be comprehended or interpret it in a meaningful way. Now you can interpret something however you want. You know, I mean, you depending on what it is, the Bible is full of that, right? It's all left really to interpretation or how one wants to see it. The reason we know this is because we see Christians that do not agree on whatever it is they are teaching. They do not agree in all points. They do not even follow First Corinthians 1:10, where Paul is encouraging the church there at Corinth to speak the same things. And then that is later, maybe I'm wrong, but the way that I taught that this was a universal thing. That means that in order for us to be in harmony in the churches, y'all need to be saying the same things. And could it be that you're not saying the same things because it's left to interpretation? Everybody has a different method of evaluation. And everybody is not common sense like this individual was saying. Did I read that to y'all? Yeah. She said, yeah, it makes sense to somebody with common sense. What is common sense? We're gonna get into that. The comments here. Okay, so when something does not make sense, it's frustrating, right? And that's where I think we are. This is why we have the conversations that we need to have, is because we have one side, we have the believing side talking about supernatural things that they usually can't explain, right? And I just think that a lot of that amounts to a God of the gaps, okay? And if that's what you have, go ahead and admit it's the God of the gaps. But if you have a belief, at least be honest enough to say, well, this is what I believe, this is why I believe it, but I'm not saying um that I can prove certain things. But that's the whole job of the Christian apologists, right? They exist to give a defense. And I think it's a little bit contradictory because in religion you have to have faith. The Bible says in Hebrews 11, if you believe, if you're a Christian, and I only really speak on Christianity because that's what I come out of, that's what I know. The Bible says without faith, okay, without faith, it is impossible to please God, who or whatever God you're talking about, without faith. Well, what is faith? Faith, I'm using the Bible. Faith is the substance of a thing hoped for, evidence of what you don't see. That whole definition of faith does not work in the natural world when trying to establish something as real, true, factual, something that is. That is simply all in a person's head. And again, to the believers, that's okay. If that's what's in your head, that's what you want to believe, I get it. I'm just saying, why don't you go ahead and admit that that's what it is? You do not have sufficient evidence for this to be making any sort of sense. At least not in my book. Let me see what some of the comments are saying before I read back. Peace, Jarvis. What's up, fam? Jarvis, I got a lot of, I haven't forgot about you, bro. And I haven't forgot about Simon. I'm going to be reaching out to Simon. Y'all stay tuned. The voice of Eli show, this show, when the pastor has questions. My YouTube channel is voice of Eli, but we call this show when the pastor asks questions. We are going to be having some international guests, so y'all stay tuned for that. That's exciting. And Jarvis, thanks for the connect on that. Let me see what else. I can't come on, but I can answer in the chat. Thanks, Sundrop. Definitely keep us up to date with what you're thinking in the chat. Talking animals doesn't make sense. I'm gonna go ahead and put that one up. Talking animals doesn't make sense. Walking on water, yes, and raised from the dead. Okay, so I'm assuming those things don't either. Because when you're trying to make some sense of things, you're going to be using some of your experiential knowledge. And believers, you're big on experiential knowledge and things you say you experience. Well, here's one thing that is a fact. None of us have experienced anything in the past. I mean, nothing be before us is what I mean by the past. When I'm talking about antiquity, there's nobody on this earth that has experienced things that we read about happening in antiquity, and what the artifacts and what the how the archaeologists have interpreted. I do say that they interpret how they have interpreted some of the artifacts and the evidence that they come up with. Now, uh, under understanding that those things happened way back there in the past. So what all history can really do, and I'm just trying to be fair, is tell us what most probably happened. And we get that based on evidence. And one thing you will never have physical evidence of, let me think about it. You will never have physical evidence of the supernatural. Why? Because it is supernatural. You cannot prove this. So then you have to start to give non-believers like myself and others, you have to give us things that make sense in the natural realm that would allow for us to at least extend toward where you all are with your beliefs. I can't get there unless you make it make sense. And I'm saying this week, Christianity does not make that sense. Let's see what else we got. What's up, Deshaun? Peace to you. Greetings, bro. Greetings, Lee. What's up, man? I'll leave. I'll be back. Okay, Sundrop. And intelligence is questioned with those stories. Some people will question your intelligence based on the belief. Now, I'm gonna say this, Deshaun. I'm not one of those people who claim that religious individuals are unintelligent. I myself, yes, I am shocked that I believe myself to be reasonably intelligent, but I'm shocked when I look back at the Bible and look back over my past belief and the things that I justified, the things that I believe, but it wasn't until I was introduced or had other information, and which is another point I need to bring up right here. This is another point. I want believers to consider this. Could it be, to the believers, could it be that you don't possess certain information that will at least allow you to understand how an individual like me has arrived where they are? Because here's the thing about my story. I was in Christianity. I grew up in some of it. That was what got me from the beginning. And most of our youth, that's usually what happens. That's what we know. They most people don't believe the Bible is true because they got into textual criticism and learned the original languages and learned the how we got the Bible and the progression. It's a word, it's a technical word for that. It's eluding me right now. I know some of y'all scholars can tell, but I think it's a T word. But anyway, you don't get all of that growing up. Now, maybe you got it later and you were presented with enough information that you said, oh, yeah. This makes sense to me. This works for me. However, did you take an honest look at information that disagrees? Because one of the things that is running rampant in the believer community is confirmation bias. Just like an example of the older woman that was talking there when she said, when she was answering the question of the show tonight, does Christianity make sense? And she answered that by saying it makes sense to those with common sense. Well, what do you mean common sense? What's so common that would allow a person? What's so common? Let's think about that. What's so common about the sense making that I should conclude through common sense that a snake can talk, that a woman can be brought from a man's side, that a donkey can talk. I don't know, whatever else you want to go. That let's take I think it's Joshua 11 or 10. Is it 11? Probably Joshua 11. That the sun stands still, allowing for daylight to continue longer so that they can fight their battles. that an angel swung his sword, taking out like 180,000 soldiers, I think, of Sennacherib's army. And then let's move on up to Jesus. You know, all those other miracles. What about that is common? And why does that make good sense to a believer to believe that? All those things, best I can evaluate, would be considered by the believer to be supernatural events. Thus, the definition of a miracle. A miracle is something that happens outside of natural physics. It's outside of being able to be explained naturally. You cannot obtain it. You can't. Especially, you can't even do it with the scientific method. And this is where I think the two communities where we are going to have uh, we're gonna bump heads. We're gonna bump heads because there are those of us saying prove it, and the believers saying that they can, but what they give us is more of you just have to believe it, and even the Bible tells you that. So, and I want to say this about the apologists before I move on a little bit, and I'm gonna look at some of the comments. Believers, if it's about belief, it's about faith, and you just have to have the substance of thing hoped for. You hope to go to heaven, right? You don't have to know that heaven is real. You don't have to know that hell is real. I don't believe in either, but you have been taught that, and therefore you have a hope. Your hope is you're going to go to heaven. You're hoping that because you have this book that you've been told is attached to that. Now that's the only thing that can be common, what we are told based on our culture and where we are, but that does not make it true. Okay? Common sense is not always a good thing to use to evaluate whether or not a thing is true. Okay, I would argue that common sense, if you really have common sense, or what is commonly the norm and what will go on and what the natural world teaches you, if you actually exercise common sense, I would argue that you wouldn't believe the things in the Bible. All right, if I'm questioned, then I think twice. Okay, God can do anything He wants, but that's not the top. Exactly, Sandra. A lot of believers will say this, and they'll say, "Well, Taylor, Eli, you just don't understand the sovereignty of God and all." And the problem with that and those type of statements is I don't believe in your God. I don't believe that your God even exists. Okay, so you can make him up to be whatever you want. Now, Christians hearing that, they immediately, oh, you don't believe in God. I said, I don't believe in your God. Okay, I'm being very specific. And it doesn't mean that I believe in a God and I got to follow this or follow that doctrine. I'm just saying, I'm keeping it specific. We're talking about Christianity, where there is a belief in the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ, right? Um, there's a heaven and a hell, and everything talked about in the Bible is true. That's what I'm talking about. The hope we have is a sure hope. Quentin is so sure. Sure. Okay. Why are you so sure? Are you so sure? For what reason? What basis? What outside of your supernatural realm can you give those of us who don't believe it to help us understand why you say it's sure? What do you mean by that? Give us that. So as I continue, um, I want to look at some of these differences. When I say something is logical, I'm gonna give you that. When we say something is rational, we're gonna talk about that. And when we say that something is coherent, so let me lay some of this out. So tonight and as we go through the week, maybe we can get somewhere in our conversation. So there are some differences between things being logical, okay, rational, and them being coherent. So here's some of the example. Logical, when we say something is logical, we mean that it follows a certain set of rules or principles, and that there is a clear relationship between the various parts or elements of the thing in question, the different parts that make it what it is is definitely a relationship. They go together, they match up. For example, y'all will know probably what a syllogism is. This is a simple one. Is in logic. I'm not claiming to be a philosopher, nothing like that. I'm just giving you a little bit of what I've learned. For example, a syllogism is a logical argument, okay, that consists of two premises and a conclusion that follows logically. Now, I'm using all those words, but I want to keep this to where we all get it. So here's a premise or a base. Let's just say I said all humans are mortal. All right, they're mortal. They can die. All humans are mortal, right? So the second thing I'm gonna say is that Eli is a human. Okay, I'm a human. Conclusion, I'm a mortal. If all humans are mortal and Eli is a human, then it follows, right, that he is if I'm human, that I am mortal. This is a logical uh way to understand uh certain arguments. Okay, it's logical because the conclusion follows necessarily. Meaning, if you we got that right. All right, rational. Let's deal. And I got to do this because I want us to have a good conversation this week. When we say something is rational, we mean that it is based on reason. Okay, reason, evidence, or sound judgment. Reason, evidence, sound judgment. Now, all that can influence what can influence your outcome. All evidence is not of the same quality. For instance, believers will say, "Hey, we got eyewitness testimony in the Bible." Where? What eyewitness testimony do you have? Matthew? Because Matthew didn't write nothing. You don't have he doesn't that letter is not autographed. That book is not autographed by somebody named Matthew. Luke, even who we say Luke, and we have reasons that they may believe that, but that letter is not, and neither are any of the gospels. They are not. Even the Gospel of John talks about the disciple whom Jesus loved, whatever that disciple. We don't have any eyewitness accounts. We have stories of people talking about what they saw within the story, but you don't have eyewitness account. What you have, it's like this. It will you say that Superman actually existed because Lois Lane said that Superman actually existed? Well, you first have to establish who the heck is Lois Lane. Y'all following what I'm saying with that? All right, let me see. Quentin's in here. If I'm questioning it. The hope we have is sure. Okay. I'm sure because it is built on a sure foundation of facts of the God. See that? There we go again, Quentin. What are the facts of the gospel? The only fact that you can have is that a man died. I can grant you I can possibly grant you the existence of Christ. It don't make me a difference either way. So if he existed, then here's another fact, because everybody that exists, remember my example about him, he died. That's not the question, Quentin. The thing that you claim to be a fact that everything is based on is the so-called resurrection. Nobody's disputing the death. I'm not even going to dispute the burial. The issue is whether or not this man got up from the grave, and what evidence do you have? What uh witnesses do you have? You don't have any. The best witness you have in the New Testament of Jesus would be probably Paul, 1 Corinthians 15. I'm gonna say right along in here, maybe if there's anybody that wants to get the link, y'all hit me up. Those of y'all who know who you are, y'all can hit me up and I'll send it. But Quentin, I would love for you to come in here death, burial, and resurrection. Okay, if a person lived, they're gonna die. 9 times out of 10, they can be buried, but not all the time. But why would it make logical sense, Quentin? Why would it make good logical sense? Why would it be good reasoning that this individual got up from the dead? Just because we have a story, and this story is not by eyewitnesses, you have zero independently verified sources of this happening. You don't have that. Not You have no independent sources stating that this happened. So let me continue on. So I talked about a syllogism and give an example of logic, something that must necessarily follow. And then we talked about rationality, saying something is rational when I'm gonna read this again, based on reason, evidence, sound judgment. For example, a decision to invest, as some of y'all are investors out there, and give you a decision to invest in a particular stock, for instance, might be um, rational if it is based on careful analysis of the company's financial statements and all that other stuff, market trends, rather than a bunch of just hearsay or somebody saying what they're doing or a hunch or a desire for a quick profit. No, you sat down and you've looked at the financials and it made good sense. It was rational. It looked like, hey, this company has been doing well for so long. They are projected to do this. They've met their projections each year before. So it may be rational to invest in that company based on their track record. This kind of goes back to when we talked about prayer. I want to ask the believer, how do you know that your prayer got answered by God, that there would have been a different outcome maybe if you did not pray? Okay, because based on what I'm talking about here, with rationality, you need something. You need something for you to reasonably conclude that a God answered your prayer. And in this example, when talking about rationality, uh, I don't think that what we are giving in the Bible rises to that level. Now, let's talk about it being coherent. So we've done logic, we've done rationality. Let's talk about whether or not it's coherent, because this is all part of making it make sense. And the gospel stories, I haven't even got to my notes. The gospel stories are not even coherent, not especially not in a way you would expect them to be from a perfect divine being. If a perfect divine being is giving guidance for what these men should be able to put down or write down, then why isn't the story coherent? You got the mixing up between Matthew 4 and Luke 4 as to what order Jesus was tempted in when he was supposedly tempted those 3 times by Satan. You got the argument again for whether or not it was one thief that mocked Jesus versus 2 thieves that mocked Jesus on the cross. You have believers trying to rationalize it by putting words into the thief's mouth that the Bible never says. It just doesn't say that. So that right there is enough to say these two are not coherent. So when I say coherent, when we say something is coherent, we mean that it is consistent, it makes sense as a whole with no contradictions or ambiguities. Let's see if we can give an example of that. I had something here. For example, a written passage I gave you an example from the Bible, but let's give a general. A written passage might be considered coherent if it has a clear structure, uses appropriate transition between ideas, and expresses its main points the way that it is easy to follow. We don't even see that when it comes to biblical interpretation, because everybody has a different interpretation of what these things mean. And part of the challenge of that is where believers, your God has chosen to put it. He chose to do this in ancient Palestine in a part of the world where there was 3% literacy among the population at the time. If he was going to save everybody that was before Jesus, because the Bible kind of hints at that, he could have very well sent Jesus in today's time. Things would have been a lot better documented. Okay, things would have been a lot better documented. Our literacy is up. But then again, maybe the lie would have been exposed. But if it was really real, it wouldn't have been. We wouldn't have been able to. Explain it. There was an individual, rest in power, James Randi. James Randi had a foundation where he would offer to anybody that can prove anything supernatural. There was $1 million prize on the table. No one, no one. I think the foundation is still exists and it's still on the table, but no one's been able to meet the challenge. Okay, it hasn't happened. Let me see. What up, folks? What up? What up, Bruce? Captain is in the place. Let me see. That's true, Eli. They are always speaking on what they think, what they think God thinks or says. It's exclusive. Exactly. You know, LaDon, one of the things I'm always wondering about the believers too, it's like they don't realize that they speak for God. They always talk about how the non-believer, you can't know God's heart and you don't know this about God, but they somehow know. They somehow know. For instance, let's go back to the whole thief on the cross thing. One book says straight up, both of them railed on Jesus. They mocked Jesus. And he never, that writer never comes back to correct that. That writer never says one having a change of heart said, you know, Lord, if it be thy will, grant me to come with you in your kingdom, whatever he said. um None of them say that. Then you have another one. It never says that both of them mocked him. It just says that one of the malefactors that was crucified with him says to the other guy, hey, we deserve what we're getting. He doesn't deserve that. Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom. That's a completely different story than what the other guy said. That is incoherent. That is not a coherent telling of something that's supposed to be the exact same storyline. Now you may say that that's small and petty, but I say nothing is small and petty if we are claiming that this book is under the divine direction of a perfect, all-knowing and all-powerful being. You don't get a pass if you're perfect, all-knowing and guiding something. You don't get a pass. You do not get to say, well, you got to fill in. No, you don't, because you're perfect, you're all-knowing and you're all-powerful. Therefore I should be able to read this and you should be able to, you be able to have a 50 gospel writers and it would be coherent. It would not contradict. Why? Because you're making sure that whatever stories we get, okay, come down to us, and you know, as a God, that you put a brain in Eli, and one day Eli is going to look at this and he's going to say, you know what? This story don't make no sense. What's it all about? Check the comments. Hello, good people. Let me see. Quentin, can you assist me? That's true. You can dismiss it, but you can't disprove it, bro. Quentin said, Quentin, that's what I do all the time on the show, man. We've been disproving this stuff up and down. Did I finish reading my notes? Yeah, yeah. I think I finished that part of my notes. So let me read you what I got on common sense, because somebody said common sense, or that the answer to my question, Christianity does make sense to those with common sense. What is common sense? So I went and looked this up, right? I went and looked this up and want to have some talk about this. Common sense refers, y'all, to the ability to use good judgment. Okay. Now, that could be subjective. We can talk about what a reasonable person is, especially when we talk about court of law, to use good judgment, practical reasoning, everyday reasoning, things you do every day. So even in common sense, if I see a snake, I'm not going to conclude, you know what, maybe that snake can talk like the one in the garden. I'm not going to conclude that because that's not common. So common sense doesn't even work when you come to the Bible. Let me continue my notes. But in practical reasoning, everyday situations, common sense is based on experience. If common sense is based on experience, I still should not believe the claims in the Bible. Maybe Quentin and some others don't believe common sense is based on experiential things or knowledge. Now, here's another one that could be a little subjective: intuition. Well, what? How does that get used? And a basic understanding of the world. So, if you have a basic understanding of the world, if you're using your experiences that you've had in the world in everyday type situations, that is how you arrive at common, hence keyword common, and sense has to do with how you reason that out. What is mostly or commonly happening? What do you see? Your experience. And my experience has been that snakes and donkeys don't talk. People can't walk on water, turn water into wine without some kind of trick or something else. And people don't normally just get up from the grave. Okay. That don't happen. All right, continuing. It involves being able to make sound decisions, okay, solve problems, and navigate social situations based on a set of shared beliefs. Now, this is when the confirmation bias comes into play because it's common to those who are believers in a certain culture. Believers, newsflash, if all you hang around is other believers, is all you know, other believers, is all you know is the information put out by your church, you really don't have common sense in the way of speaking with the rest of the world out here. You don't. You have confirmation bias, and you have the sense that your group has. You have what's common in your group. That's what you have. You don't have common sense in the sense of the population of Earth, or the 8 billion people on Earth. No, you have common sense within your group. What is common to you all, and to you all, it makes sense. What Quentin is saying on here probably makes good sense to any other believers, or the person that commented saying that the answer to my question, does Christianity make sense, is common sense. Quentin, you probably agree with them, but y'all are of the same community. Y'all get what I'm saying? What else we got in? I see the comments. I'm having trouble understanding Quentin's comment. I'm not sure which one. Well, okay, I'm not sure which part of his comments, but I'm trying to answer him now. Common sense. Let's put this up here. Common sense. God, Joe. Common sense. God killed himself, but didn't want to do it, saying not his will be done, but his will be done, since they are the same. How does that make sense? Good comment, Joe. Good. I don't know. Joe, I think that maybe Quentin can answer that. How does it make sense? Let me read that again. Common sense. God killed himself, but didn't want to do it, saying not his will be done, but his will be done, since they are the same. How does that make sense? I'm just saying, Quentin, maybe Quentin can answer that for us. I'm gonna put that back up on the screen. Maybe Quentin can answer that. Because of a thing he knew, because of a thing he knew it would happen. Let me put that with that, Joe. Okay. So when you say common sense ain't really that common, well, what group are we talking about? Because the sense of the Christian group, the sense that Christians have that these things have, the rules of evaluation that Christians are using, their experiential knowledge their intuition or whatever. These things really are not common in the way of the world. They're not. I mean, Christians, be honest. When the last time you saw a bunch of bodies get out the grave and walk around, except for on TV? I asked that question. You know what? You know what? Let me bring up a text, y'all. Y'all bear with me. I want to bring this text up because I think I asked this question, and I think it was you, Quentin. I think you had something to say, and I wanted to know. I wanted to know, did this literally happen? I don't think I got much response, but this supposedly happened when Jesus was on the cross. He gave up the ghost, and then it starts to tell us about all these dead saints rose up and went in, let me rose up and went into the cities. Da, 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 da. All right, it might be let me get the next chapter. I'm just trying to find that text for y'all because I want to read. Yeah, I think it's 27. 27. Sure, spoken by the prophet thou says. Let me find it. I think it's around 50 something. Jesus gives up the ghost. I'm almost there, y'all. Yeah, there it is. There it is. I'm gonna share this. I want to know. I want to know from Quentin. Hello, what's up, James? Good to see you. Peace to you, fam. All right, I'm gonna share my screen. I want to see Matthew 27, and I want to know, does this make sense? Does this make? I'm gonna back up a little bit. Let's see where Jesus is up here, right? Make sure y'all can see that. Go back to the tab. Oh, all right. Let's do it like this. All right. No, this is bigger. Y'all can probably see that better. We'll go with that. All right. Y'all see Jesus talk. He's on the cross, right? Some of them that stood there say he called for Elijah. Let's continue down. Jesus cried again with a loud voice. He yielded up the ghost. Okay, so he's dead now. Behold, the veil of the temple was rent, blah, blah, blah. From top to bottom, blah, blah, blah. And the earth did quake and rocks went. Now, it's an earthquake going on, rocks cracking. I want to know if these next two verses literally happen. And does this make sense to the believer and to the non-believers? Now, let me tell you, I have a theory about why stuff like this can make sense to a believer. I mean, why? I have a theory. I'm gonna try to say that in a moment. But let me, y'all see these verses. Let me see what y'all saying. If y'all saying anything in the chat. Nobody wrote about these zombies either, but it happened, huh? Exactly, Joe. This and Quentin, I need you to tell me, bro. Did this literally happen? If it's figurative, if you're gonna say it's figurative, you can say that. How many of y'all familiar with a scholar by the name of Michael, or they call him Mike Lacona? He has debated Bart Ehrman a few times. He's written a huge book on the resurrection of Christ. I have not read it, but I hear something like 700 and something pages. And I was reading a book. Shout out to Chris Terrell. Chris, thanks for the information. I'm trying to catch up on the information you sent me. I'm reading a lot. But Mike Lacona, even though he's a believer, said that these two verses, Matthew 27, 52 and 53, were more than likely figurative, apocalyptic language. And y'all, he was fired from the university he worked at for saying that, because they were fundamentalists and they believed that this stuff really literally happened. So it makes sense to them. But even a believer like Mike Arcona, a scholar, rightfully called so, said that these things don't appear to be literally true. All right, peace everyone at work and listen. What's up, Mike? Hey man, I hope you're having a good time at the job. So I'm gonna go ahead and read them, even though y'all see them there. It says the graves were open, and many bodies of the saints which were slept arose, verse 53, and came out of the graves after his resurrection. Now it does, let me keep reading. And went into the holy city and appeared unto many. Now, to me, when I read this for another time, it does appear that maybe somebody placed this here because you see Jesus dying or events like right there at the death in verse 51. But this in verse 52 and 53 is supposedly taking place um after he resurrects. Whether it happened before or after, whatever. I want to know from believers, did it literally happen? Did some dead people get out of their graves and go into the city and appear unto many people? Did that literally happen? Quentin, come on. Did it really happen, Quentin? And if you believe that it really happened, I want to know why. Why does this make good sense to you? Okay, that's the question. On okay, Quentin got a long response. I'm going to put it on the big side here. Let's see what this says. I'm gonna take my time and read it. Early testimony, eyewitness testimony. I already covered that. We don't have any of that. We don't have eyewitness testimony. Testimony from multiple independent. No, we don't have any independent. You have sources, Quentin, that are written by believers. You do not have any independent. If you have it, I just need a source, man. I need to know it. Go ahead and post it. Post it here. You say what is this? All right. You say we have eyewitness testimony. You're probably saying that's the Bible, but if you got something other than that, please point it out. I'm just not aware of it. If you say you have independent sources, where is that? Where's the independent sources of this? Eyewitness sources. Hold on one second. Eyewitness sources. Okay. And then you say you have corroborating evidence from archaeology and other writers. Enemy attestation. What enemy attestation do you have for the miraculous claims? You will have enemy and all this attestation of people, of non-believers that claim that there were these people who believe these things, but that's not attestation and that's not proof that the things you believe in actually happen. Just because if Quentin, if you were today, if you were probably asked, are there individuals alive in this world today that believe in the God of destruction, Shiva, you would say, yeah, those people believe that. That wouldn't be independent attestation that God actually exists. It would just be that there are some people that believe that. So you don't have that. Corroborating evidence from archaeology and other writers. Enemy okay. Testimony containing embarrassing details to the okay. The criteria of embarrassment. I may come back tomorrow for that. But that is a weak, supposedly weak proof. That's very subjective. Let's see, bro. If you knew how history works, it is based on probability. I had already said that. Quentin, maybe you didn't. I said that at the beginning of this live. I said in history, we can only tell what most probably happened because we don't get to go back and recreate the events. You can't put history in a test tube. So I had already covered that at the beginning. You can only tell what most probably happened, and you can only arrive closer and closer at what most probably happened depending on the strength of the evidence that is presented. Now, once you get presented with the evidence, we need you to go in there with these tools, with logic, with reasoning, and being able to see if these things are coherent. Okay, so that's what you got to do, Quint. Bro, if you do our history, it is based on probability. I know historians piece together evidence, and through I'm sorry, I had to. Historians piece together evidence and through interviewing eyewitnesses. Maybe that's a typo, Quinn. I hope that's not what you meant to say, because we can't interview anybody from antiquity. Anybody. Now, I'm not just talking about with this religious stuff. I mean anybody. I mean, heck, you can't go back and interview George Washington. That wasn't that long ago. You can't interview him though. Okay. Just as scientists don't have access to all facts, yet they can gather enough facts to be reasonably certain concerning that's good. That is what science can do. Science does not claim to have all knowledge. Science is simply a method for obtaining it, testing our natural world. Now, what science can you offer, Quentin, that will allow us to arrive at the position that this stuff is logically true in real life, in our natural? You're talking about supernatural claims, you're talking about miracles. That, by definition, is beyond finding out scientifically. And therefore, since it is beyond knowledge, the word science means knowledge, since it is beyond finding that stuff out using the scientific method, it becomes a belief at that point. You have to just believe it. Let me take that off the screen. All right, let me see. Uh yeah, basically, listen at what Neo said, Quentin. Quentin, you need to stop. Okay, you're trying to dismiss the New Testament as historically reliable. You can't. Okay, historically reliable. Historically reliable. Okay. Here's the thing about it being historically reliable. There are listen to me close, Quentin, and believers. There are some things in the Bible that are true. You happy? There are some characters talked about in the Bible that existed. The one that first comes to mind, it's a Pharaoh, Taharka. I think he's mentioned in the Bible, and it was a real Pharaoh by that name. And then some other people that just because there are some factual things mentioned in the Bible. I think I have this. Let me see if I can find y'all a picture. So I don't teach, but I'm considered a teacher at a middle school. I'm a behavior interventionist, and I go into the English language arts class, and I saw something. I said I'm gonna take a picture of this so that I can talk about it on my show or show it. I probably, yeah, there it is. There it is. It might be too small for y'all to see. Let me see here. Is that the one? Now, just because a story talks about a real place and then applies a fiction over it doesn't make the fictional story real. It just means there's a real place called Jerusalem. Did people really get crucified? Yes, they did. Did any of them get raised from the dead? Hmm. Where's your proof of that? So, Quentin, I'm not debating that people died. I'm not debating that people didn't get buried. I am debating and asking and challenging whether or not people resurrect from the dead. Now, this is what I wanted to say earlier about this making sense to believers. Believers, the reason this stuff makes sense, listen to me close. I'm going away from my notes. I really, the reason this stuff makes sense to the believer is because the believer already believes that a supernatural being exists called God, I'm talking about the Christian belief, they already believe that entity, that thing, that person, if you will, they already believe that thing exists. Now, just for the non-believers, try to get into the believer's shoes for a second here. Once you believe that something like Jehovah is real, once you are solidified that that entity is real, and once you have accepted that that entity, Jehovah, has these powers, once you believe that, guess what? That makes everything else this book says believable, because you believe that there is an entity with this kind of power and is active in our natural world in that way. You already believe that. So it's not a stretch for them, to the non-believer. It's not a stretch for them to believe that a man could get up from the grave and all this other stuff we've been talking about actually happened. Because guess what? Let's get back into the believer's shoes for a second. If it could be proven, if it could be shown by empirical evidence that Yahweh is real, and that all the stuff of the Bible actually happened, if that could be shown, then guess what? Then we would be foolish for not believing it, because it would be there. The evidence would be there, but the evidence is not there. The Bible straight up says faith is the substance of things hope. Hope. What is hope? What is it? I'm not saying, I'm not demonizing or making hope a bad thing, but just what is hope, Quentin? What is hope? Hope is something out there, future. It's not material. It hasn't happened. It's not real yet. It's something that you want to be. So if hope is the thing, is hope is faith is a substance of things that we hope for. It's made up of what? Hope. Your very man, it's so hard to put it in words. The very thing you have, the substance of it, whatever it is hope. It's the substance of things hoped for. And therefore, because you have that, you feel you have evidence of what can't be seen, because you have hope. I don't have hope, okay, of some foolishness. All right, let me see what else we're saying here. Okay, let's see what else Quinn got. Can you send a link to my email? Yeah, Neo, let me send you the link. I don't know. Make sure you got a good background, Neo. I'm gonna send it, but make sure you got good background, can't noise canceling, so we can actually hear you. Give me a second to pull it up. Boom. Invite guest, copy, email. Here we go. 1 second. 1 second, y'all. Y'all bear with me. Y'all bear with me. For tonight. All right, there we go. Let me see what else. Okay, Quentin says, let me stop sharing my screen right quick, yo. Okay, Quentin says, I assume you are familiar with the historical method to establish his existence and look at what he was like. That means conceding that the New Testament Gospels must be our source. No, it don't. Which is what every single historian in academia today uses to examine his life. If we are going to do real work questioning his divinity, that's not an independent source, Quentin. that no, that's not an independent source, because if that's the case, if you can do that, right, then any other religion, ones you don't believe in, that have writings of their leaders doing so-called miraculous works, then we should believe them too, because they have writings that say this and that happened. The Upanishads have claims. What's the other one in the Hindu? They have the Upanishads, and some other things. You got the Egyptians who have creation myths written on the wall. You don't believe none of that, and their stuff was written in stone. This stuff was written on papyrus and written over again, and we got different gospels that didn't even make it into the so-called canon. And you're telling me that we gotta follow these writings as, hold up, where did it go? Put it back on screen. This means conceding that the New Testament Gospels must be your source. If that is your source and your only source, then you're just proving my point that I don't have a good basis for concluding that it's true. I don't have an unbiased source, which is an independent source. Do you have Tachius? Do you have? I'm bringing you in, Neil. Do you have Tachius saying that Jesus got up from the dead? No, you might find a historian saying that these people believe he got up from the dead. Did Suetonius say that? Did Pliny the Younger say that? Did Josephus say he got up from the grave? You don't have an independent source stating any of these things. All right. Neo, you are in the place, and I've been talking a minute. I'm gonna let Neo join in. What's up, sis?
Hey, peace, peace. I'm not driving today, so hopefully my audio is real clear. So
It's
I'm actually at home.
loud and clear. Loud and
Okay,
good.
good. So, but I apologize for all the time I had bad audio. Sometimes it's just that service go in and out. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I have a question. So you said, you asked someone, does Christianity make sense, or you asked them, is it like, how did the common sense part come when she said it to believe
Okay,
in the gospel? Yeah, can you say
I
that
can
again? I
I
want to
can
make
I
sure I
can
understand.
I can put a picture up. Let me. I'm gonna put a picture up. I took a screenshot and I'm gonna show you what happened. That'll make it even clearer. Let me share this screen. Hold on. And I'm give a due respect. It's an hold on. It's an older woman,
All right.
that's in the church, and I try to keep things respectful. But let me all right, window. There we go. All right. All right, let me move our pictures over here. All right, are you able to see that on the screen?
A little bit, because I'm on my
Okay.
phone. It says,
Oh, okay. Well, it says it. All right. So I put the broadcast. You know how StreamYard to put them out. And
mm,
so on the second one, which is chapter 2, which will be tomorrow, but she made a comment, and she's answering the question that's on my thumbnail. The question is, does Christianity make sense? And
mm-hmm,
her answer was yes, to someone with
with common
common
sense.
sense.
Oh, okay.
And I'm saying, or someone who knows enough about history and real science to see that the Bible doesn't make sense. Because before you respond, because one of my things that I'm finding out, I found this out about myself, this hit me, is that when I was in religion and it was very compelling to me, the arguments and things that were given made sense to me, but they made sense to me because of that's all I knew. That was literally all I knew. I had confirmation bias. I didn't even know what confirmation bias was, but I did not have the knowledge of, for instance, the water cycle. Now people say you learned about this stuff in middle school. I forgot a lot of it, but here's something, and y'all can call me dumb if you want to. What I did not know, Neo, is that all the water we have on Earth is all the water we have ever had. There is no new water. I didn't know this.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's true, For us to have enough water that would cover all the highest mountains, spread all, so that water would have to even out and spread all across the globe for that to happen. Now I have to ask this question: where did all that water go? And my answer would be it was never here, because the flood at best was a local flood. But yeah, go ahead. That was just an example of something I did not
Yeah,
know
but
while I
you
was a
know,
believer.
yeah, but someone is going to argue that 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 the water is probably frozen, in the ice capsule, you know what I'm saying, or it comes in from the middle of the earth. So some people are just going to justify it, but the reason why I don't believe in the flood, because of the archaeological findings with the what it called, those certain shellfish and the crustacean seafood, sea animal crustacean. You see how they dated. They was like, you remember when Bill Nye did his presentation, he was saying that we would see the fossils of the dead animals
Mm-hmm.
embedded in. So, that's like the main reason why, because the fossils don't match up. So, but peace. But so I just want to make sure I understand. So she basically saying to believe in the Christian faith, you have to have common sense. Like when
Right.
she said
It
yes to
makes good
someone with,
sense.
all right.
Right.
So how can she explain all the other different religions that people choose to believe? So these people don't have any common sense if they choose to follow Allah, or if they choose to be Hindu and follow Krishna, or some African folktale religion. Like, what I don't get, what she was, I guess she's trying to say the message of the cross is common sense, or the Christian faith is common
Well,
sense.
because my question is general. I didn't really get specific. The question for the show, I think she was just saying Christianity makes sense to people
Mm-hmm.
with common sense. That's what I get from what she's saying, because that's all she would have seen. I hadn't said anything to her. She was just putting a comment up on my post, and that's all my post says is, does Christianity make sense? And her answer was, to those who have common sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just remind those who say things like, I have different issues with, Christianity, is because I feel like it takes a person's accountability away from when they do bad things, for them to think they're going to get some type of award or paradise after they live the hellish lifestyle and they heard the gospel of Jesus Christ and then they believed. You know what I'm saying? I told you I always felt like that wasn't a fair judgment, because it seemed like it's not, I don't know. It just seemed like it's not something that a supernatural being would come with, but something more like men would, like something to give them a get out of jail free card for being bad people, if that makes sense. Like, that's the one thing
Mm-hmm.
I know I had an issue with that. And then I also have an issue when you try to apply Christianity today, like practice the faith today. We don't have enough evidence to say that, prayers are being answered. You remember when I told Pastor G, he told me that every person he laid hands on recover 100%. And I had told him, if you come with me to a children's hospital, lay hands on one of those kids, if you heal one of those children right there, that I would convert over to Christianity. I told him I wouldn't even question it. It's like when you try to hold them to exactly what the Bible says, anything you ask in Jesus' name, you supposed to get. When those things doesn't happen, it's like they look at us as if something's wrong with us, but we're applying our common sense, is like our eyes, our ears, our what's the other, touch, you know what I'm saying, like all our senses that we apply to make sense of things, to rational things. It's like when we try to apply that to the religion, it seems like you don't have to have common sense to ask you to follow that religion. So like,
Mm-hmm.
if you have common sense, you're not going to follow the religion,
Right.
because everything else is not, like, I'm sorry if I sound all over, I'm trying to read
No,
this and
no,
look at
you
you at the
making
same
good
time.
sense. I
But I'm
said that
saying,
earlier, but keep putting. I like the way you're putting it. Yeah.
yeah, I'm just saying, like, I'm just giving them an example. When you actually use your senses that God given you, like your brain to rationalize, when you use your eyes, you can't see God, you can't see like these miracles and stuff like that. You can't see the angels unless they appear to you, according to whatever believer you talk to. But it's like when you actually try to apply things you use to survive here on earth to believing in the God, in the like the God of the Bible, it's like they conflict each other. It seems like you have to have a supernatural drive to believe in a God, or just fear. Because most Christians, if there was no hell, If there was no hell, they did not believe in hell, they would not follow that God. I don't know why they won't admit that, but they know the only reason why they believe is because they scared of going to hell. That's it.
Absolutely. And you mentioned eyes. I wanted to share something with everybody here and give a few thoughts. You with me for a moment, Neo?
Yeah, I'm with you for a minute.
I wanna show y'all something. It's I ain't gonna say what it is. I'm just gonna ask a question. Let me bring this up. I really want to just have the picture. I'll just bring it up this way because I don't have time to do it the way I would have wanted to. I didn't set it up, but check this out. Let's share. All right. Are y'all seeing that up on your screen? The checkerboard along with the cylinder. Let me see here. All right. All right. Now, let me move this. Good to see you, though, Bruce. All right. Y'all check this out. Now, what if I was to tell you that the square with the B on it is the same color as the square with the A on it? Y'all see that? And what if I were to tell you that? Now, looking at this, Neo mentioned the eyes and how we can look at things. And I want the believers and the non-believers to consider something here. When I looked at this earlier today, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, no, there's no way the square with the A and the square with the B are the same color. But this is an optical illusion. In other words, when we look at it straight on, this is what, with the information we have, they look different with the information we have that's coming into us from our eyes. And this is where I want the believer to understand what confirmation bias is, because if all you are ever accepting by way of information is information that already agrees with what you're saying, number one, you're not learning anything. Number two, you're not being challenged, so you're not exercising your mental faculties. Now, I'm going to play the video and I'm going to show you the way they break this down, that the square B and square A are actually the same colors. And I'm gonna tell y'all, when I saw this, the person that showed, I was like, nah, I don't understand how that's working. And then I have another point to the non-believers after we watch this video. All right, let me see if I can hit play. Y'all listen up.
Ever seen this before? Would you believe me if I told you that the color shade of block A and B are the same? From a strict visual perspective, they don't look the same. In fact, block A clearly looks darker than block B. To test if it's true, let's do an experiment where we remove everything but A and B. So here we go. As you can see, they're nearly identical with the exception of the letters. To be 100% certain, however, let's use a color picker to tell us the exact color code. You can do this by using Photoshop or something similar like the app you see on your screen. Now, by clicking anywhere on the image, let's start with A, we should get the code 6A, 6A, 6A. This should be the exact same when I click anywhere here. Notice we get 6A, 6A, 6A. What this tells us is that our brain is playing a trick on us. It assumes that since the cylinder appears to be casting a shadow onto B, though there really isn't a shadow there, our brain makes the assumption that block B must be lighter than it actually is had the shade not been there. But after we remove the cylinder and its surroundings, the brain realizes that the shadow isn't real, allowing its true color to be revealed.
Now, I'm gonna just pause it right there, and I'm gonna tell y'all why I showed you that. I showed you that because believers, you can be getting information and that thing can look that way to you in your brain. It can to you, that is true. However, you have to kind of understand ways that the brain works. Like when we start to talk about something that's contrary to what you all believe, there's defense that kicks in. There the same things are sometimes firing in your brain as a fight or flight response, or there are people that actually get upset with you and want to fight you because you're presenting information that is against their total worldview. But on the other hand, and I want to get Neo's opinion on this. When I was presented with this today, I needed so much to understand. I was like, because of the shadow, I was trying to explain to the person that it wasn't a certain way. But once they sent me the video and I was able to see that those two squares were the same, this person told me, now consider how much information it took for me to be convinced that those two squares were in fact the same color. I needed more and more information contrary to what my brain was telling me when I looked at it before I could say, oh, I see the issue here. Yeah, I hope that's coherent enough. I hope y'all understanding what I'm saying. Any input?
Yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying, because when you was playing the image, I was even trying to cover up the green cylinder with my hand and to see if my eyes would adjust, and because now I'm blocking, but I still seen that it was like it seemed like it was two different colors until he did the ink test to show us that it was actually the same color. But but yeah, it does make sense, because just like some people need just a little bit of faith to believe, some people need a lot of faith to believe, and vice versa. Like there's some people who literally don't believe in the Bible because it contradicts itself. There's people like me and you, where we were searching for historical, archaeological evidence to help prove the Bible, and we kept coming across more information that
Right.
disproved it. So then we concluded after that, okay, like, hey, I think we've been hoodwinked. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, I know somebody right now who said she just read the Bible and just was like, that shit didn't make no. She didn't care about historical, archaeological evidence. She just read it for herself, and she said it didn't make any sense to her. So she just didn't believe. But me and you, it took more, because we were believers. That's why I said sometimes I came across this research when I was doing my last debate, and it's this white guy. I think his name was Stephen Reese. Resis. I think Reese is something like that. Rees. I forgot his name. I think it's like Stephen Reese. And he wrote this book where he talked about 16 principles that people apply to their life, and what they value. Depending on what they value depends on what type of religion they're going to most likely adapt to, if that makes sense. So there's like even a psychological reason why people believe in certain religions. Like, for example, he gave an example, like if a person values, what's the word, on tranquility, something like that, they most likely will choose the Christian faith, because they believe in the afterlife of a paradise. You get what I'm saying? So he was like, or somebody who's um who values vengeance, they would believe in the Abrahamic God, because that God promotes and talks about revenging his people, and slaying the wicked and stuff like that. Like the way he broke it down, I was like, dang, it kind of made sense. Like a person most likely to be atheist if they value independence. Like he was saying, they gave these people like scorecards and had them circle out of the 16 things what do they value most, and depending on what they chose, he could tell what religion they're most likely. And a person who values independence more than the other 16 things, they were all atheists, if that made sense. So I thought that was an interesting story. So sometimes when we do believe, sometimes when we do believe in certain doctrines, like what's a good people who believe in, what's that dang on religion, the one that they believe that the aliens, is it Mormons? They believe that the race started, like it's a Christian faith that believe like in the aliens. Is it the Mormons? Don't quote me, I don't want to be wrong.
They do have I did hear about some Mormons that believe that we're supposed to get our own planet or something like that to rule over in the, I don't know, in the afterlife or something.
It's one of those Christian doctrines where they believe that the angels are like more like aliens, and they created, like, the white man was the first one created. Like, it was, maybe it is Mormons,
It
because
could
they
be.
teach. I think I don't know, y'all. Don't make me. It's one of those Christian
Well,
doctrines,
yeah.
and I want to say it's Mormons, where they believe like the first creators were like these angels, and they look like white people, and then the angels that came down from whatever planet they came to Earth, and then all that stuff happened, and the black people were cursed with brown skin, but they're Christians. They believe in Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
Jesus coming from the earth, like off a spaceship or something like that. But I was saying, like, I was like, for them to believe in something like that, I said, you have to have a very vivid imagination. But then I told them I can't judge, because, you know, traditional Christians do believe there was a talking snake in the beginning of the book, and there was a talkie donkey. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, dang, it really takes more lack of common sense to believe in it. That's why I'm surprised that sister said if you have common sense, like, because a rational person knows they never heard a snake talk. Animals don't talk. You
Right.
just, you know, they don't have conversations. No one ever witnessed that. Nobody ever witnessed anybody raised from the dead. There have been people making claims, but no one ever proved it. Nobody ever seen an amputee grow his arm back or leg back. You know what I'm saying? Like, all these supernatural claims that people claim happens, how come they're just simply not documented? And it's how many people on this earth? 7 billion, and we can't get a solid documentation of some type of
Not one.
supernatural miracle that
Not
somebody prayed
one.
something in Jesus' name and it came to pass.
Not
So,
one.
and
Not
then,
even one. Go
yeah,
go ahead.
you feel what I'm saying? And then, like, the other day, I don't know if I shared this on your channel or somebody else, where I saw a video where somebody was talking about a man and his family went camping, and I guess they were out in the out somewhere in the winter where it's snowing, and they lost their keys. Something happened where they lost their keys, and then they was like looking forward, and they prayed to God and asked the God to find their keys. And then right when they was about to give up, they, you know, like, I guess go get help, they found the keys at the bottom of the mountain. And then the person tweeted like, thank God, don't tell me prayers doesn't work. And then they told the
Mm.
story about the keys, that, you know, how they found their keys. And then right under there was a powerful comment from somebody said, well, it's mighty funny that your God is concerned about you finding your keys, but it won't heal dying children in the hospital. Like, you know,
Mm.
like,
Yeah.
how does, you know what I'm saying? So, well, like, using my common sense, that would make me say, okay, is either God don't care about people suffering, or there is no God answering, you know, hey, help me find my keys or heal the kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, how can you rationalize that and
Well,
say your God did
even
it?
this, even if I were to grant them, okay, even if I were to say, okay, your why is that what you know your God to be doing? Like, Christians will say, oh, well, you don't know the mind of God. But then they'll say stuff like, in this prayer situation you're presenting, that's how God works. Who told them that's how their God works? And what are they using as evidence for that? You say you prayed, you found your keys, but is it just because you found your keys that now that makes prayer real? You get what I'm saying?
Well, I was basically saying, which one you think will be a more powerful testimony? Hey, I've God helped me find my keys, or hey, I went to a children's hospital. A child had terminal cancer and they healed. That, you know what I'm saying? Like, which one would be more powerful testimony to
Right.
prove that your God is all powerful and your God is all mighty? You get what I'm saying? Like, finding your keys,
That you
but
can come up on that on accident. You come up on your keys, but yeah, like you're saying, if you got medical professionals around, they looking at this person, we can establish that disease or whatever is right there, and it's there present. You go into the room, you pray, and while they monitoring, I mean, it just disappeared, just disappeared. And then you go down to the next room, next hall, and you do it, and you, at the very least, science may not be able to explain it, and maybe you just got them kind of good vibes. But
mhm,
if you keep doing that, at some point we're gonna have to take note. Like, wait a minute, something is going on here, and we
mhm.
ain't seen that yet. We ain't, I wanted to say something about what you said about the guy talk the guy you debated talking about people valuing certain things. Because
No,
like when I Mhm.
no, I said he was somebody I brought up when I was talking about why people believe in religions. I think his name
Right.
is like Stephen Reese. Don't quote me on that. I gotta look at my
Okay.
notes.
Well,
Yeah.
if that's interesting and compelling. Like I have as my little slogan or whatever. Truth is my only religion.
Hmm.
Now, what I'm saying, I'll break it down real quick and then tell you where I'm going. I remember doing some looking into what religion meant in the Latin to bind and to hold, and then truth is what we know truth to be is what is. So I'm
Hmm.
saying that truth is the only thing that I'll be held by and bound to. That's what I'm saying when I say truth is my only religion. Now, when I became a member of the Churches of Christ, I had at least in my mind that the Bible was true at this time. I'm like 15 years old. And I had that in my mind based on what those who loved and cared about me told me. So I really didn't have a reason to believe that it wasn't true. So I was basing, in my view, my beliefs off of what you couldn't tell me it wasn't true. It was true. Why would my mom lie to me? Why would grandma lie to me? Everything I had, I even, I didn't know anything about logical fallacies and all that junk. The majority of people believed in God. The majority of people said that this book was true and they were smarter than me. They had degrees and stuff. So I was like, hey, the Bible is true. And so my allegiance has always been to what is true.
Hmm.
And then I did what you were just saying. I had somebody tell me, go and get the evidence. And I'm thinking, it's because it's true, because this really physically happened on this earth. God's not trying to cover up his tracks, right? Why would he do that? Because he could use this evidence to convince more people. So the evidence will be there when I go look, because I believed it was true. I told myself, you know what, Eli, don't be afraid, rather, to investigate, because what is true is still gonna be true when you're done with your investigation. It
Yeah.
just so happened that the evidence wasn't there, so I had to fall on the side of, again, I'm following truth, not confirmation of what I already thought I knew. I'm bringing in more information from outside of my circle and found that that information checked out in reality, not just in my head, but in reality.
All
And
right.
so I mean, you just whatever comments you have on that, because I think
Well,
believers, yeah,
like, not to cut you off. You was done. I'm sorry.
yeah, I was done.
Okay. Um. Well, I'm more into a little philosophy, so I kind of play on that word truth a little bit,
Hmm.
because I have a saying. Your slogan is, "Truth is my only religion," and then my slogan is, "All religions are true." And
Hmm.
I do that to invite people in to figure out what it is I'm saying. I always remind people: is it not possible something that is true today, can it be proven to be a lie tomorrow? And one scientific guy said that is how truth works. Sometimes I think people mix up truth with facts. I think facts is something
Hmm.
that's more of an absolute truth, or a shorter way to say absolute truth, because we know that something can be true today and be proven a lie tomorrow, because there's more evidence, there's more facts that come into a play for them to determine and say, okay, well, we thought, like, I'm going to give you an example. You know how people say they thought it was true that, uh, what was it? Cow's milk is good for you or whatever, because
Yeah.
the vitamin D or whatever. But then we later found out that cow's milk doesn't have vitamin D. They actually add vitamin D to milk. But you remember people thought, so they thought it was true, but until the more facts came along to show us, okay, no, that's not the truth. It was actually people put vitamin D into milk, cow's milk. I don't think cow's milk automatically has vitamin D. We actually get vitamin D from the sun. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
We produce it in our body when we out in the sun. So that's basically how you get vitamin D naturally. So that's why I be wondering, like, I guess truth is something that I kind of remind people that it's based off perspective. I don't know how much time you got, but I do have a video I can send to you in the email. And if you want to play it to your audience or whatever, so you can break down how truth works. I think it's about 3 minutes long, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, that's not long.
So
Go ahead and
yeah, if
send
you
it,
want
and
to, but
we'll
I
share
kind of,
it.
but y'all know that I don't really truth to me is not going to always be absolute. But to me, facts like 2 plus 2, the fact of 2 plus 2, the facts is 4. You get what I'm saying? So that's a
I'm
way of saying absolute. But truth sometimes can be, unless they come up with a new mathematical equation of how we calculate things. For right now, 2 plus 2, the truth is 4. The facts is that it's 4. But if it's proven to not be, you know, 4, then that takes additional facts, if that makes sense to
that
everybody.
that's
So,
no, I get where you're going. Go and send it, and I'll try to bring it up. I got a few more minutes here. I wanted
all right.
to say something while you're doing that on the point of how in science we can we can kind of revise, right? We have a scientific method and we use that to investigate the natural world. That seems to be quite an issue, as I was saying earlier in the video, when you start to talk about what faith is, or at least what the Bible says faith is. Okay, it's a substance of what? Things hoped for. That's immaterial. That's something you can never really test for in science. And I know we go back and forth, we have these talks, we have these debates, but I don't see where we'll ever be able to prove, especially through using science, that something supernatural has actually taken place, because science is a method that is used to evaluate things in the natural world. Something may happen that we don't have an explanation for as of yet, but science over time, and then it'll come back with one. We see that happening through history. Everybody was giving credit to a deity for certain things, and then here comes along science and reasoning and being able to test things and evaluate it and prove things another way, or show us what's really going on. But religion is never revised. Like, you have people that want to stick to their dogmatic beliefs no matter what the science says, and then they'll use what is the glory of science being able to be revised. I think they'll use that against science and say, well, science said this 200 years ago, now it's saying this, and they feel like they're proving that you can't trust science. And I think that it's just the opposite when it comes to, okay, I got it right here. Let me see, copy. See, paste. All right, I got. Oh, let me pause it.
Yeah, and I meant to say truth also can be something that contains facts and beliefs. I meant to add that when I was trying to tell people, remember, there's a difference between facts and truth. The difference,
Mhm.
the facts cannot be undisputed. You know what I'm saying? The facts is just the facts. But truth for something to be truth, you do need facts and sometimes beliefs. So
Mhm. I'm gonna hide this. I'm gonna play your video. I got it. Y'all give me a second. Let's get this up. And we gonna probably, this can probably be one of the last things before I get up out of here, depending on how much time it takes us. Okay. All right, y'all. Here we go. Let's watch this video.
What is truth?
Oh, I've
And
seen this.
not the opposite of a lie kind of truth.
oh, you
But
seen that before?
Yeah, but
of knowing
I need to
something,
watch it again. Let's see.
that kind of truth. Here's a quick quote from Albert Einstein. If you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, you don't understand it yourself. I'll try to follow the suggestion in his quote, and it's very possible that 6 and 7-year-olds and some advanced 5-year-olds may understand this, better than some adults. So, what is truth? Let's say we have a ball. The ball is two colors split down the middle. Half of the ball is orange and half is green. Two people are standing, one on each side. Nobody is allowed to lie and must tell the truth. Remember, it's not a test for verbally spoken truth, but the feeling, knowing, believing kind of truth. The person on the left tells the person on the right, it's an orange ball. The person on the right answers, no, it's a green ball. And they begin to argue about it. This is what the person on the left sees, and this is what the person on the right sees. One person sees an orange ball, the other sees a green ball. What is the truth? Let's bring in a third person. That person is you. Yes, you, the one watching this video. You see two people arguing whether a ball is orange or green when you know it's both colors. You also know that neither person can see the other side of the ball, so you know from their point of view, they're both right. This would be your perspective, or point of view, or truth. Now, a fourth person is standing nearby, knows that there's a yellow light shining on the ball that nobody else sees, making it look orange and green when in fact it's a red and blue ball. So what's the truth now? Let's use this multicolored soccer ball to represent many people. And let's say each person can only see one spot or color on the ball. Once again, nobody is allowed to lie and must tell the truth. After everyone finishes saying, it's a yellow ball, it's a blue ball, it's a white ball, and all the other colors, the ones who see yellow start grouping together because they see the same thing. And the ones who see blue start grouping together because they're seeing the same thing. Then each group starts thinking the other groups are wrong. So they all begin arguing about who's right. The word truth means a fact or belief that is accepted as true, or something provable or verifiable. Have all the people who see yellow verified and proved the ball to be yellow? Yeah. Have all the people who see blue verified and proved amongst themselves that the ball being blue is indeed a fact? Yes, again. And remember, no one is lying. Let's bring in the third person again. You. What do you see? Don't you wish you could just tell them all it's a multicolored ball and that they're all wrong? Or should you see if that fourth person is somewhere nearby with more information than what you already have? Can truth change? Well, if the two people in the beginning were shown that the ball has two colors, one on each side, then wouldn't the truth they believed in the beginning change? And if they met the fourth person who knows about the light, then wouldn't it change again? Truth could be thought of as just a temporary belief of knowing something in a moment of time until it advances and then changes.
You see how like I'm real picky about why I use the word truth? Oh, you're on mute. You muted.
Okay, my bad, y'all, my bad. Yeah. I was gonna say something to that. What I gathered from that, first of all, that was a good video to illustrate it. At first, I was thinking about everybody's perspective, right? But when I put that in the context of the things that we talk about on your channel and even on my channel, I saw perspective and information because
Right.
yeah, perspective and information. And this is what I'm actually inviting uh mainly believers, but non-believers also, but mainly believers are is where we get the pushback, where I get the pushback most of the time, that they already know. They are
Mm-hmm.
unwilling to consider that there's another perspective to look at this from. They don't have, like I don't have this text. Another believer told me the other day when I was talking about knowledge and knowing things, history. I was talking about archaeology. This person straight up told me the Bible is all I need to know.
Mm.
You will never see the fourth person. You will never talk to the fourth person. You don't even know there's a light. All they do is look at their spot on the ball or their place on the ball, and there
Mm-hmm.
is no other perspective. And that's why I'm doing this show this week, because I really want believers to start at least thinking, is it possible that there is more that I'm not seeing here? And that's what I'm saying happens with our knowledge in the world. When we look at geology, when we look at archaeology, they're only looking at things that support their position.
Right.
And when you scared of it, because I was scared of it, it was no way. What is this, 2023? There was no way, let's just say 6-7 years ago, that you was gonna get me to dive deep into who Asar and Aset and Heru and Kum and all. I wasn't finna look into all that Egyptian stuff because that was evil. I wasn't even gonna look at it. I didn't even want to hear it. I had to get to the point where I was saying, okay, even after I look at it, if what I'm already seeing is the true color, let's say if what I'm already seeing is an orange ball, when I go all the way around this ball, the whole ball should be orange. But believers seem to not want to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I said. That's why I wanted to play the video about the truth thing, because, like you said, some of these people, they tunnel vision. They can only see one perspective. And me, since I adopted to be more spiritual and to be more into philosophy, that's why when I say tricky things like all religions are true, it kind of makes they mind blow. Like they literally freak out when I say that and call me crazy and all that. And I just sit back and let them talk their shit. And then I remind them, like, well, then you say your God is all powerful, almighty, and infinite, right? So if you serve an infinite God, how you gonna tell a God that it can't express itself in infinite ways? You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you think you have the path when there are many paths. Because where do all these religions come from? They come from the imagination of a person's mind. Where's your mind? Your consciousness. So how do you know this God who's experiencing itself did not come up with all these different religions and all these different versions of God? I said, y'all practicing religion, and I'm trying to get some people to really just grasp this. When you argue over religion, you're really arguing over a cup of water or what to call water. Water has a specific purpose. Once you drink it, it quenches your thirst. So that's how I see religion. I tell people, if you're going to choose to follow religion, do what works for you. If it works for you, if it's beneficial, I'm not going to tell you not to believe. But if it's not beneficial to your neighbor or the next person next to you, you cannot tell them that they're wrong or they don't know the true God or they're going to hell or whatever, because it's proven that because it's beneficial to you, it's not beneficial to them, because maybe they have to serve God or believe in God in a different way. We're diverse people. There's nothing common about us. That's why when she said common sense, I was like, we're not even common people. We're created to be diverse. We don't even look alike. We have different color shades. There's fat people, skinny people, tall people. You know what I'm saying? Our hair is different. Like, we're diverse. Our mentality is diverse. Culturally, we have different diversity in cultures. But y'all want to limit God to one European, Abrahamic version of a God, to one faith. But you know the true living God, though. 7 billion people, but only Christians got it right.
Only them.
So that's all I'm saying. Like, I told them, and they always say, because Jesus said that he is he is the truth. But then I just gave you a plate of video that truth can be subjective. Truth can be based off of a certain facts that you only know at that moment. What about the other million facts? Because Jesus wasn't even his real name. So how can you want us to trust your version of Jesus, but you don't even have the correct name of the Messiah? You have a name that's 400 years old. His name
Mm.
wasn't even Jesus. If you was to travel back in time 2,000 years and go find Jesus, you call him, he's not going to answer you because that's not his name. Like, you
Let
see how
me
they don't even
let
take that in consideration.
can I mean can we build out just a little bit, because there is somebody on here that may not that I used to teach at my church. She may not be familiar with what you mean by that. Can you expound
About
upon
Jesus.
the name? Yeah, I want her to hear somebody other
Well,
than me,
oh,
perhaps.
oh, you already tried to tell her.
Well, no, I did. I don't know. I don't remember saying this in a public way to my congregation.
Mhm.
I know I talked about it with certain people, and I don't know if she was one of them. But I do know she has been exposed to this knowledge. But I just want, maybe you might say something I haven't said.
I mean, yeah, I mean, only thing I was simply saying, if you just do a simple Google search, J is like one of the last letters added to the English alphabet. They used to call him, I think it was Isis. Um,
Issues,
uh, yeah,
issues.
yeah, yeah. Well, what's the word? Isis, and then I forgot the Muslim version. Uh,
I
it's
don't know the Muslim version. I don't
it
know
was
that
on the
one.
top. It's on the tip of my tongue. Sorry to E though, but I know that I just remind Christians that Jesus was Jewish, and there is no letter J in the Hebrew language. So his proper name, depending on which way they had to transliterate the pronunciation of his name from he from Hebrew to Greek, uh, it would be, his name probably would have had to been Joshua or Yahshua, and in different Hebrew translations, some of them say Yeshua, like YES. So, but it definitely wasn't Jesus. But I always tell them that kind of confused me a little bit, because in the Hebrew version, Satan name is Hasatan. But
Mhm.
when we say Satan name, we can say Satan. Those names sound similar to each other. Yeshua and Jesus don't sound nothing alike. You know what I'm saying? Like Yeshua and Jesus, like they don't even sound the same, but they'll say that that's Jesus' name, but then they won't admit that it's a Greek translation, that it was Isis first, Isis, and then later in the English version, his name became Jesus. So when the Bible said there's power in the name of Jesus, is it power in the name of Jesus, or power in the name of Yeshua, or power in the name of Aisha? You know what I'm saying? Depending on the translation, or power in the name of Joshua. Because I heard Hebrew rabbis say the proper pronunciation would be Joshua. You know, so.
Mhm.
But it's just one of those things. So that's why I said I'm always picky on when I say truth. But I never understood, if people believe in an almighty God, an infinite God, then why do they think it's impossible for this God to express itself in infinite ways? Because if it created everything, it means it created the false gods too. Like they
Mhm.
can't get around that. If he's jealous of gods, these little gods that he created, you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Like these little guys that
Like,
he gave
why?
the authority to, or the authorities to rule this earth with Satan. Like, I
And
think
why
people
would you
don't
feel threatened? Why would you feel threatened? Like the Tower of Babel, that makes me think about what's the big deal with what humans are doing? You're
yeah.
God.
But hey, here, let's apply some common sense to why I don't believe in the Tower of Babel. All right, so
Mhm.
according to the story, men were building towers up into the heaven, trying to reach the heaven, right? What
Mhm.
happens when you get to a certain altitude in the sky?
You can't even breathe.
So it was impossible for people to build a tower into the heavens that's going to reach God's kingdom, because I thought God's kingdom was in a whole nother dimension anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like, even with that, I said, if God should just let them build it as high as they got, and then when they got to a certain level, let them pass out, because we know you can't breathe at a certain altitude.
They would have died.
People die on Mount Everest all the time because of the lack of oxygen. So this is like, when you apply your common sense, it actually makes you not want to believe in the Bible. Follow the Bible. There's a lot of stuff in the Bible that claims that they make that just doesn't make sense.
And I
So
want to add this to the Jesus thing, because I'm gonna go ahead and say we got Sandra on, and Sandra, I appreciate your questions from when I had the pleasure of being your minister. I really appreciated your questions. You're very astute, and you ask questions that most people were afraid to ask. So I'm glad to see you here. I'm gonna just add something to that Jesus thing, Sandra, that Neo brought up. And you can look this up. In the Greek alphabet, there is no letter in the Greek that makes the J sound. They
not
don't
one.
have it. They don't have that. Now that you know that your New Testament was written in Koine or classical Greek, but nowhere in that particular language, that their alphabet, was there any way of even they don't have any J sound. As I understand it, they don't have it in the Hebrew either. Neo, you may know more about that, but because I wasn't a
No,
big
there's
on
no
Hebrew.
there's
They
no
don't.
J. No.
And I'm gonna share this real quick to make it a little bit stronger point. I'm just really I'm just doing this with Sandra because I just appreciate her being here. Like I said, I wanted to share this real quick. I'm just gonna show. I used to say this in the pulpit. I used to say, Christians don't even know that it says his name is. I would, when I learned about the J, I said Yah. But
Mm-hmm.
when I would say Jah, most Christians don't even know that it says it. Now, why would it say J, Sandra? Why is there a J there? That J is there because in the late 1500s, the J went from being a number to being a letter, and they assigned it that property, that sound, that just sound that you hear. And if you get a 1611 KJV, I may be able to one day show that to y'all because I have it in PDF. And if you get that version of the Bible, when the 1611 Bible was written, even the so-called King James, his name is spelt with an I. There are no J's anywhere except for as numbers in the 1611 KJV. So the J did not become a letter until about a little over 400 years ago. That's why Neo was saying we only start hearing the name Jesus about 400 years ago. Now, when Christians sang in the song that there's power, wondrous working power in the name of Jesus, really? Because that was never his name. And don't let anybody tell you, I gotta say this, don't let anybody tell you it's because of transliteration going from one language to another. What you do in transliteration is, if you have a name or a word, even you're trying to move into another language, you would take how that word sounds in the original language. For instance, Yahshua. Let's take the name Yahshua. If I want to transliterate his name in English, because we have a Y sound, I can actually do that with the Yah and the Shua. We have all the letters to make Yahshua. So that's how a transliteration is done. You take the sounds from the original language and you put it as close as you can with the alphabet of the language you're trying to put the name into. Let me say that again. I want to be clear. If you have a name, a word, and you're trying to transliterate, you take that how it sounds, like let's say bueno in Spanish, but I want to write this in English. I would use the letters in English that make that same sound. Therefore, his name should have never been called Jesus, because in the original language, the Hebrew, his name would have been Yeshua. And therefore, in the English, because we have a Y, you can properly transliterate his name, Yahshua. And Christians, if you want to know the proper name, you should be saying Yahshua and not Jesus. Now y'all can go and fact check me on that, but that was years ago that I dealt with that. But I
Yeah,
want to.
I kind of like gave you tried to get a family example how I don't buy the transliteration version either, because in the Hebrew Satan name is Ha Satan. But when it's translated in English, it's Satan. They just dropped the Ha.
They
Now
dropped
it's
it.
just
Right.
Satan. So if they can bring his name so closely translated, how come Jesus' name sounds nothing like the Hebrew version?
Nothing.
You know what I'm
Not even
saying?
close.
Like, depending on which one you want to translate, it's either Joshua, Yahshua, or Yeshua. None of those sound like Jesus. Those are two different names. But Hasatan and Satan, his name didn't change hardly at all. But I'm glad you brought her up, because she said, can you go back to a comment she said to me? Because I think sister didn't hear what I had said.
All right.
She
Yeah, tell me which one it
Go
was.
to her second to last comment. It says, well, I agree with Neo, but technically I think she's missing the term truth and facts. I thought I explained the difference between the two, that I said facts can't be indisputable. And we based our truth off the facts that we have, and depending on how many facts you have about.
All right here.
Yeah. So I don't know, sis, if you heard that I said the facts cannot be indisputable, but you base your truth off the amount of facts that you have, and your truth can change based on the amount of facts that you have. That's what I was saying, that truth can change. That's why I let him play that video, because the truth was that ball was actually red and blue, but the people didn't know about the light. No one was lying about the version of the ball that they saw, because they was only able to see it from their perspective. But the more facts you have, because it was a fact that one side of the ball was orange, and it wasn't a fact that the other ball was green, and it was a fact that if you turn on the light, that those balls turn color. But the truth is based off on how much of the facts that you knew, sis. That's the difference. That's what
I think what she getting at, and Texas won't. I think I already did what Texas is asking me to do, but I could be wrong. I don't know if there's a late, but I think what she's saying, Neo, because what I was thinking, I just wasn't going to deal with it tonight. I was going to come back tomorrow night. Is the way I understand truth is this: that ball, like in that example, the truth is it was actually red and blue. That is what the truth is. However, when you're looking at it under a light, they don't know about the light. Each person is stating, I think, what people would call today their truth. This is what they see. So they're not trying to be deceptive. They're not lying. They just don't have enough information, even though they think that they do. But it's just what they're looking at to them is true. To them, it is true. But when I'm asking about truth, I'm asking absolutely.
No. So no, hold on. But look, check it out though. They don't believe that ball was orange. They know that it's orange, because that's what they see. The fact was, to however our eyes work with the lights and the illusion or whatever, the way it was reflected into their mind that it was orange. But they didn't care to walk around on the other side of the ball to see, hey, oh, you see a green. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's what I mean about when y'all was like, oh, no, it's their truth, the subjective truth. No, it is true. That is exactly what they saw. But they didn't have more knowledge to or wisdom to walk around and look at the whole ball, or go look to see why the ball is, why is other people saying, hey, this ball is blue, or this ball is green, or this ball, you get what I'm saying? Yeah, like a person like me would go examine and go look, okay, let me see why all these different people believe in different religions. Let me see where they're getting it from. Oh, but shit, this shit.
But if you were let's say you were that fourth person with the light, you knew about the light, you had these perspectives, right? And you're watching this person on the orange side, and I really got to go. We over time. You're watching this person on the orange side say it's orange, it is orange, and you're sitting there as the fourth person listening to them say that. Can you say that what they are saying is true from your perspective?
Because I know that's all they can see. So they're not, that is the truth, but the facts is, but this is what I can say to them next. Okay, yes, you are correct. This ball is orange, because I know that's what you see from your perspective. But let's walk over here. Hey, guess what? On the other side of this ball is green. But guess what? It's more to the ball. Oh, you don't believe me? Show them the light. Actually, the ball is red. Oh, well, technically it's red and blue if you stand from this way. It's like it's you able to pull the layers off the onions and show people that it's more underneath. You know what I'm saying? Because that one fact, it was a fact that that person did see an orange ball because of where they was standing off their perspective. It is true that it's orange, but it's more than one truth to that ball. That ball is actually manipulated, different colors. There's a light shining on it, and then there's somebody who has more information, like you said, the person above who knows it's a damn light there. You know what I'm saying? So the truth is that the more facts you have, that's when your truth begin to change, if that makes sense. Because at one point you thought it was true that you thought it was true that the Christian faith was the only way, right? You believe that based off of the beliefs that you were taught, the things you comprehend.
I thought it was true, but it wasn't true. I thought that to me in my mind it's right. It's true from the perspective. Right, I get that.
But if they don't know about the other perspectives,
right?
You know, I know, but they don't know. So technically, it is technically true from their perspective. They lack the knowledge that we have. So it's like I'm telling, it's really deep. One day I try to get into it. One day I don't want to keep holding up your clock. But
the more fact. Oh no, I'm just reading comments because Sandra want to know now. Does anything in the Bible have some truth? This is, and y'all, Sandra, I'm so glad this is the kind of stuff she would ask questions like that in Bible class, and I love it. She said
there's something in the Bible that is true.
Yeah.
I would probably say there is one, when they say the love of money is the root of all evil. From my perspective and experiences in life, the love of money, not money, because people, that's one of the most misquoted scriptures in the Bible. But I'll probably say the love of money is the root to all evil.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, no, it's because I want to keep talking. I just can't, y'all. I
know. I'm sorry. I'll be holding you up.
Oh, you good? Hey, thanks for coming in, and everybody in the chat. Y'all just been wonderful supporting the show. Neo, I don't know if you know, but you know about Brady Goodwin, right? I'm trying to have him on Thursday. He wrote that book, Let There Be Gaslight.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to have him on Thursday. And then we got Bruce in here. We call him the captain, Life After Religion. I'm gonna be interviewing him on Monday. So it's good to have Bruce in here. And thanks, Neo. Keep telling people to hit that like button because I've been forgetting to do that.
Yeah, make sure you hit the like button. But can you do me a favor? It was a brother on your show one time. He tried to reach out to me, and I forgot to save his number. And he texts me, but I don't know, like because I have my Google number and my personal number, and I told you anybody asks for my number, I always give them the Google number unless I tell you to give them the personal. But you're like, I'm trying to think of his name. He was on the show. He was I know he was a Christian.
Text me after the show. And
I don't remember his name. I was trying to see if you can remember. But all right, I'm trying to reach out to him.
I'll call you up and call out a few names. I don't want to call them on here. I'm gonna call out a few names to you, and then you let me know if that sounds
all right, cool. But great show. Peace, family. Peace to the chat. So
for those that are wondering, I talked to the chief before I came on today. He is in the studio with the song. So y'all just stay tuned for that, because when that gets done, we're gonna have us maybe a little bit of a new intro, new outro. So shout out to the king. He's also working on the documentary 1968, having to do with some of the indigenous history here in the Americas. So y'all might want to check that out. That's going to be coming to us all very soon. But Neo, I'm gonna let you have the last few words, and then I'm gonna go ahead and cue it up.
No, that's it, brother. Just like I said, I'm a philosopher. I'm into stuff like that. I kind of just learned that at the end of the day, it's all water. The point of religion is to quench your thirst. Everyone's desiring a higher version of themselves, regardless if you want to call it Jesus, if you want to call it Allah, if you want to call it Yahweh, if you want to call it yourself, if you want to call yourself or your parents a deity. We just all trying to seek a higher version of ourselves, because we have this sense It's something written in our essence for us to believe that we're more than just our physical bodies. So that's kind of how I see religion. But you remember, it's just water. Quench your thirst. Stop arguing about what to call water if it's beneficial to you. If it functions for you, then it is. The function is what's important, not the name. So that's all I can say about that. But peace.
Peace,
And thank you for letting me on the show.
No, always welcome. And y'all already know I'm gonna say it. It's my logo. It's my truth. Truth is my only religion. But I love y'all. Peace.
You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything. Some people open up their eyes to see the world they know outside. I can close my eyes and see all that and way beyond. When these trials of life come heavy and these obstacles get hard, feeling like I need some answers, I just go and talk to God. I just go and talk to God when I'm looking for guidance. Need more than sight, need vision, need direction when I'm blinded. Then I start that conversation with that voice I hear inside me. And that conversation starts with a voice inside that sounds just like me when I talk to God. You can see God in anything, your reflection. I can find God in anything. When I talk to God, you can see God in anything. When I talk to God, I find God in anything. When I talk to God. My daddy said don't ever assume, ask questions. It's ironic it was that advice that helped the song happen. It was also that advice that led me to my life's blessings. That same advice helped me make it through life's lessons. It was that advice that separates grown-ups away from children. That advice can be the difference from knowing or just believing. It was that advice that brought the gavel down on my decisions of breaking the mental chains of these man-created religions. The faith and belief, nonsense, the biggest scam ever. I hate to say it, I swear it's one hell of a mental illness. Why we do it with these religions? The fact that COVID's killing while all of these guys is missing. Peekaboos, guys playing games with you. I'ma just assume he ain't got no COVID miracles. Maybe he ran out after making the donkey talk. Or some stories about a guy walking on water tides. Simply a distraction to keep you away from you and to look outside for a God when the God is inside of you. When you close your eyes at night to pray to that voice you talking to. When you ready to face the truth, you realize that voice is you. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in.